There is a man who owns a private island he has visited twice in the last 5 years. Not because he forgot about it, because he has other islands. At his level, the question is not what he can afford. The question is what he can be bothered to remember. This is where the 10 levels end. But to understand how we get there, we start at the beginning, where most people spend their entire lives. 10 levels of wealth, not just bigger bank accounts. 10 completely different ways of existing in the world, each one operating by rules the level below it cannot imagine. Level 1 access. Most people live with a quiet, specific kind of pressure. It is not dramatic. It does not look like poverty from the outside. It looks like checking the account before agreeing to dinner. Saying yes to the cheaper option automatically, without thinking about it. Running the numbers in your head before the bill arrives. This is what level 1 actually is. Not having nothing, but living in a permanent negotiation with money. One unexpected expense, a car, a medical bill, a broken appliance, and the math stops working. The buffer does not exist. The family here has income. They have a home, they have food. What they do not have is margin. And the absence of margin means that money is always, in some form, present in every decision. This is the baseline. This is where the majority of the world lives. And the distance from here to level 2 is not as large as it sounds, but the feeling of crossing it changes something permanently. Level 2 improvement. The shift at level 2 is not visible on a balance sheet. It is felt. The family takes a vacation without calculating whether they can afford to. They replace the car when it starts failing instead of after it has already failed. They say yes to the school trip. They order what they actually want at the restaurant. None of this sounds extraordinary. But for someone who spent years at level 1, each of these moments carries a specific kind of relief, the absence of the calculation. The money is not gone. There is something left. A savings account that is not immediately earmarked for anything. A small investment. An emergency fund that is actually funded. Net worth somewhere between $50,000 and $250,000. The house is modest. The car is reliable. The life is not glamorous. But it is no longer fragile. And fragility, it turns out, is its own kind of poverty. Level 3, comfort. A household income above 6 figures, a home that was chosen, not settled for, a neighborhood with good schools and clean streets, 2 cars, both less than 5 years old, savings, a retirement account being actively funded, a vacation every year, sometimes 2. Life at level 3 is comfortable in the literal sense, physical comfort, logistical comfort, the comfort of not worrying about most things most of the time. The interesting thing about this level is what it produces psychologically. For the first time, money becomes invisible in daily life, not because there is unlimited money, but because daily needs are covered without conscious effort. The problem is that comfort and satisfaction are different things. And at level 3, the gap between them starts to become clear. The neighbors drive better cars. The colleague just bought a house in a better neighborhood. The comparison is not destructive yet, but it is present. And it points toward level 4. Level 4 status. Net worth crosses $1 million. The house upgrades, the car upgrades, the neighborhood upgrades. But what actually changes at level 4 is subtler than any of those things. It is the way other people behave around you. The restaurant treats you differently when you become a regular and they know you spend well. The tailor learns your name. The hotel upgrades the room without being asked because you have stayed enough times that the front desk recognizes the name on the reservation. None of this was purchased directly. It accumulated. And the person at level 4 starts to understand that wealth, past a certain point, is not just about what you can buy. It is about how the world orients itself toward you. The surprising thing about this level is how quickly it normalizes. The first upgrade feels like an event. The 10th upgrade feels like a standard. And the moment something feels standard is the moment you start noticing what is above it. What is above it has nothing to do with status. It has to do with time. Level 5 luxury. The specific luxury of level 5 is not things. It is the removal of friction. Net worth between $5 million and $30 million. The person here flies business class without thinking about the price difference. They hire a house manager so they never have to think about the house. They have an accountant, a lawyer, a financial advisor, a small team whose job is to handle the parts of life that used to take time. And time is the real product being purchased. Not the business class seat, not the house manager. time. The hours that used to go toward managing logistics, tracking expenses, handling problems, those hours now belong to the person instead of to the administration of their life. What they do with that time varies. Some build more, some rest, some discover for the first time that they did not actually know what they wanted when they were not busy surviving. This is a strange and specific disorientation that almost nobody talks about, and it does not resolve at level 6. It deepens. Level 6 convenience. A different city every week, not for tourism, for business, for meetings, for reasons that shift constantly. The person at level 6, net worth between $30 million and $100 million, has optimized their life to the point where almost nothing is handled personally. A travel coordinator manages the flights, the hotels, the cars. A household team manages each residence. A personal assistant manages the schedule, the communications, the decisions that can be delegated. The interesting thing about this level is the paradox it creates. Life has never been easier logistically, and yet the decisions that remain, the ones that cannot be delegated, are larger than anything the person faced before. The company, the investments, the wealth structure, the family. These are not problems that staff can solve. They're the problems that remain when everything else has been removed. And the weight of them is, in some ways, heavier than carrying smaller problems personally. But this is still a world that makes sense. Level 7 is where the world starts looking different. Level 7, exclusivity. There are rooms that do not appear in any directory, restaurants that do not have public reservations, clubs with no listed address, and a membership process that begins with a phone call from someone who is already inside. Level 7 is the entry point to a parallel world that runs alongside the visible one. Same cities, same streets, but a completely different infrastructure. Net worth above $100 million. The person here does not wait for anything in the conventional sense. Not for a table, not for a flight, not for a meeting. Access is immediate because access has been purchased structurally, not transactionally. The strange thing about exclusivity at this level is that it is almost invisible from the outside. The person does not look dramatically different from a successful professional at level 4 or 5. The difference is entirely in what happens when they make a call, what opens, who picks up, how quickly, and what they are given access to that most people do not know exists. The next level takes that access and removes the last thing that still connects it to the normal world geography. Level 8, isolation. The property is not described by address. It is described by coordinates. A private island, a mountain estate reachable only by helicopter in winter. A compound in a country that most people could not locate on a map without searching for it. Net worth above $500 million. At this level, isolation is not a side effect of wealth. It is a deliberate design decision. The person has chosen to build their life in a place where the outside world requires effort to reach. Not because they are hiding, because proximity to the world at this level comes with costs, security costs, privacy costs, the constant management of being visible that eventually outweigh the benefits. The staff on a level 8 property might outnumber the small village nearest to it. A guest could spend 20 minutes on the property and still not have seen most of it. There are rooms in the main residence that the owner has not entered in months. Not because they forgot they existed, because the property is large enough that certain parts of it have become abstract. This is where wealth starts to become genuinely strange. Level 9, legacy. Somewhere in Europe, there is a family that has been wealthy for longer than most countries have existed in their current borders. The estate has a name, not an address, a name. The family wine has been produced on the same land for over 200 years. The art collection inside the main residence has pieces that museums have requested to borrow, not purchase, because they are not for sale at any price. This is level 9 wealth that has become institutional. Net worth above 1 billion, but the number almost loses, meaning because the wealth is no longer personal. It is structural. It is held in foundations, in land, in assets that have been legally and financially arranged to survive any individual member of the family indefinitely. The children who grow up here do not think of themselves as wealthy in the way someone who just made their first million thinks of themselves as wealthy. They think of themselves as custodians. The estate was here before them, it will be here after them. Their job is not to enjoy it, their job is to preserve it. This is a psychological reality that outsiders almost never understand about this level. And level 10 is for the people for whom even legacy is just a starting point. Level 10 power? There is a point at which wealth stops being about the person who has it and starts being about the systems it controls. A nation's infrastructure, a global supply chain, a communication network that carries the messages of billions of people. At level 10, net worth above $10 billion, in some cases above $100 billion. The individual and the institution have merged in a way that is almost impossible to separate. Decisions made in private have public consequences. Governments respond to phone calls. The person does not need to ask for access to anything because the people who control access come to them. The strangest thing about level 10 is not the private islands or the yachts or the properties on multiple continents. It is the cognitive shift that comes with operating at this scale. The problems are not personal anymore. They are civilizational. The question is not whether you can afford something. The question is whether the thing you want to do is even legal in the jurisdictions where you want to do it. Whether the infrastructure exists to support it, whether the political environment will allow it. Money at level 10 has become something else entirely. It is not wealth in any conventional sense. It is leverage over the conditions of the world itself. And the people who have it did not set out to reach this level. They simply kept going, and the level came to them. 10 levels, 10 different worlds. The gap between level 1 and level 2 is measured in dollars. The gap between level 9 and level 10 is measured in something that does not have a clean name. What is certain is that by the time you reach the top, the original question, what does money buy, no longer applies, because by then, money is not the tool anymore. It is the material that everything else is built from.